Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we will continue talking about the animation edition, and more specifically we are going to talk about how to create vector animations, vector graphics and texts. Also, I will show you how to create different shapes, how to create handwritten elements like these ones, how to create masks and how to animate them, and also how to create movements along certain curves. In order to use vector graphics on our website, we need a format which is called SVG, Scalable Vector Graphics. Usually all the visual editors save in this format. I use Figma. This is an editor that can be used directly in the browser, and here I can create different pictures and then save them in SVG format. So for example, I will take up the pen and make a curve. Now I will just export to SVG from here. And now I can open our picture in any text editor. So as we can see, it's just a code or a set of characters. And now let's try to animate the movement of some picture along our curve. So we need to add an animation container, and then we'll add an image inside. So we go to Media Library, and let's choose, for example, this flower. Now in animation container, we'll enable a type which is called SVG path here. And here we can animate the movements in two ways. Either to put the coordinates of our path here or to import the image itself. So we check the code of our image that we have previously exported. And as we can see, we have the coordinates here. So we can just copy them and then put them here. Now the movement is quite fast because by default the duration of the movement is just 1 second. So let's make it, for example, 10 seconds, and this is the effect that we get. But since our coordinates that we have already saved here are not quite big, we are not able to control the size of the image in the coordinates. So it's much better to import our image here, and we'll add a block which is called SVG shape here. In this block you can find a great variety of different already set shapes, and there is also an option which is called Enable Custom SVG. So we can just copy our image code from here and paste it here. And as we can see, everything now works well here. By the way, this way you can also use different vector graphics and paste them on the website just by copying its code and using it on the blog. So now this image is quite small, so let's increase it a bit, like this. And now, as we can see, we can control its size and position on the screen. Now we need to add this image to this one. So we go to our code where there is a path, and we need to add here a unique ID. So we type here ID equal to path1, like this. Then we copy this ID, we go to animation container, and now you can add this ID. So first we need to enter this symbol and then to paste the ID of the image, like this. So here we set the path of our image, and now we also need to add this ID for the align. So as we can see, everything works, but there is a slight shift. It's because our animation container has its own width as well, and this is why the image is a bit shifted. In order to remove the own width of the animation container, we need to go to Advanced Options and then Position and set an absolute position. Now, when the animation starts, as you can see, everything works well. And the last issue that we need to solve here is that when inserting animation, our image is not located exactly on the curve. So we need to put it here to the initial point. So we transform the image of vector graphic to a container wrapper from here. And then we add the animation container to the same container wrapper, like this. If the image doesn't match the beginning of the animation, you can just add different values to your position, and this way to find the position that fits best. You also have an option which is called Align Origin Point X, so you can increase a bit or make smaller the position of the image relative to the curve along which the animation occurs. One more interesting option that you will probably use is called Orient Along Path. If you enable it, as you can see, our image doesn't just repeat the movement of the curve, but also its orientation. By the way, it's not obligatory that the curves, the vector graphic, is visible on the page. You can go to Advanced Options and then click on CSS Transform and then make the opacity 0. The next effect that we can implement here is called Vector Graphics Drawing Effect. So let's add a line SVG shape and let's choose a simple element. Let's say this one. It's very important to mention that the drawing is only possible for borders. What is the difference between the borders and the filling? I will show you this on an example of this circle. So as we can see, the circle has a filling. So we cannot draw it, we can draw only the borders. So for example, we set here transparency 0, and then we choose a stroke color and stroke width. Now we add an animation container, and then we select SVG draw. And let's make also the duration longer. In Figma, you can also export any image and any graphics or even text. Now we copy our code from here and we add again SVG shape. Then we enable custom SVG and paste the code here. Then we will add an animation container. Here I forgot to remove the filling and add a border color and width. So let's do it now. Then we select SVG draw and set a duration 10. And this is the effect that we get. This effect will also work with the effects that we talked about in our first part video about animation, for example with interpolation. So if we set a trigger start 0 and a trigger end plus equal to 300 pixels, and we also set one for interpolate animation by scroll, then we update and let's check how it works. So when we start scrolling, the effect starts working. We can add a bigger trigger end, let's say for example 700, and this is the effect that we get. You can use both effects simultaneously, both drawing and curve movement. For example, we'll draw a curve here and then we'll export to SVG. From here. Then we will copy the code from here. This one we will remove and then we will add here SVG shape. Then we enable custom SVG and we put the code here. Then we will add here a container wrapper and we will add our image inside. We will add a drawing of this line. So we click on SVG draw here. And the most important is here to set the same duration of the animation for both images. So let's say for example 10. Or better 5. Next, we need to add here an ID. So we copy the ID. Click on Transform to Animation Container and in Advanced Position, we set an absolute position. And also we will set 0 for left and bottom. Like this. Then we go back to General Options and we select here SVG path. We put in the set path the ID and we put the same in Align ID. We disable Set Direction as From and finally we will set a duration of 5. Also we need to enable Orient Along Path from here and now let's check how it works. The next effect that we are going to talk about is called morphing effect. For this effect, we need two images. So let's take a simple letter. For example, this one. The images should be simple and should be similarly by size and form. So here are our two images. This is our second image. And we need to export them. Then we need to copy the code of the image from here, and then we add SVG shape, then we enable custom SVG and we put the code here. And now we will do the same with our second image. So we'll copy first the code of it. And here we need to add an animation container. Then we go to General Options and set here SVG Morph. So here we have two fields. In one of them, we add our start image, and in the second one, we will need to add our end image. But it is not obligatory to add a start image because it will be used the one that is located inside our block. So we need to only add our end image here. Here we can also use both coordinates and ID, so I'll just use the coordinates, and this is the morphing effect that we get. Unlike previous methods, here there is an animation of the filling, not only animation of the borders. Vector graphics can be used not only by itself, but also as a mask, image, or even a video. As you probably remember, we can animate only the borders. This means that we are not able to animate the letters themselves, and I will show you now an example. So if we add such a letter, if we remove the filling, we can see the borders of the letter. And such a graphic will not be suitable in our case for a mask, so we need to correct it a bit. So by clicking on the right button of the mouse, we go to Flatten, and this way we can transform our letter to a vector format. Now if we click 2 times, we can see all the points, and we can just delete all the internal points like this. And we now have only one line. Now we can export this line to SVG from here. Then we will copy the code of our image, and we will add here SVG shape. Then we enable custom SVG, and we will paste the code here. We will make it bigger, like this. And now we need to add borders. So we'll add a border width 50 here. And we must set here a black color, like this. Now we'll add an animation container, then we set SVG draw, and we'll set a duration of 5 here, or better 3. Like this. And now we need to add this mask to the image or to the video. So we add a new container wrapper, and then we add inside an image. So let's choose, for example, this one. And now we need to insert this image to our masks. So we go to Advanced Options, and we set an absolute position. Then we set values so that the image has covered all the mask. Like this. And then we just go to the settings of the image, and in Mix Blend we select Lighten. Like this. And this is what we get. So all the black areas that are under this image are now going to work as a mask. And at the same time, the animation is going to work as previously. Actually, it's not obligatory to use exactly an image. You can use absolutely any element and make a mask from it. So for example, we can also use a video. So let's add a video here. So this is the video that we have. And here I will implement absolutely the same functions as before. So I will enable autoplay here as well. and I will disable player control and I will enable loop. Then I will set it as an absolute position. And since our video now has an absolute position, we need to add a width. Like this. I will click on Fit to Container Cover. And now I need to enable Mix Blend options, which are here in background and opacity. And here I set again lighten, like this. And this is the final result that we get. As you can see, the video is now working. So let's now check how it works on the website. And here is the effect that we get. There is also an interesting moment here. So since our scripts load after loading of the page, we can see our effect without animation for a short period of time, and this doesn't look very good. As you can see, there is such a flash, and in order to avoid this, there is an option in trigger section which is called hide on init. This one, meaning that the block is hiding, starts showing back only when the animation starts happening. So we enable this option here, and also you can set 0 opacity here, and it's going to work absolutely the same way as hide on init. So let's now check how it works. And as we can see, there is no flash and everything works pretty well. And our animation starts happening once it starts. Now let's look at some other issues you may encounter while using Mix Blend options. So let's say that we want to set such a background. So we add here a section. And then we'll make it 100%, meaning that it will be expanded to full width and height of the screen. Then what we need to do is to move our container inside. Like this. And then we select Flexbox here, and we set a direction. So as you can see, we lost the mask. We have lost it because in order for it to work, we need to have a difference between the background and the element above, meaning that our background must be white and the element above, our letter C, should be black. But when we added an additional layer, it is a transparent. So we see it as white, and this is because by default the color in browser is white. But actually there is no color, so that is why we need to add this color. So here there is a small issue. It goes beyond the borders, and it's because our container and our video block have different sizes. So in container, we do not have a size at all, while we have a size for the video block. And now let's make it the same both for the container as for the video block. And now we can remove the negative values here. And the last thing that we need to do is to center the container itself. So we click on Justify Content Center, and now everything is correct. Now we'll add an image. So for example, let's say this one. So since we already have an image, we can remove the background cover. And this is what we get. But as you can see, now it goes beyond a bit, so we can fix it now. We need to go to background and opacity. And we set the background color white, like this, and then we select in Mix Blend, Darken. So there is one rule here, and we need to get how it works. So if the background is a dark color, then we need to set also a Mix Blend, Darken, while the element itself must be white. If the background is white, then the element must be in dark color. If you want to make a super complex animation of vector graphics, I would recommend you to look at what does it mean Lottie format. You can go to the website lottifiles.com and check here what does it mean Lottie, how to make it, and how to work with it. And also there is a great variety of examples of different vector animations. So all you need to do is to copy the Lottie animation URL and add it to our Lottie blog. So here you can put the link, and here there are also many options. You can control, for example, the size, the speed, and also to add interactivity mode. For example, you can also add an animation while scrolling. So it's similar to what we were doing for interpolation. And let's now check how it works. So once you scroll, there is a shot change occurs. There is also a Lottie plugin. It's created by the same company that has created Lottie format as well, but I would recommend you to use Lottie block in Green Shift because we have created a special loader that doesn't weigh down your page. If you try to test the page of Lottie plugin in Google, you will notice that it has a very low speed and very low performance. If you check the speed of our Lottie block, you will observe that the performance here is 100. In order to reach this speed, you just need to create the first shot of the animation. So you need to click on Take Snapshot Image of Current Lottie. It creates a screenshot of the first shot of the animation, and then you just browse it as our start image. This means that when the website is loading, the image will just load, and once the user starts interacting, all the libraries, scripts, and animation will also load. And the last block of vector graphic that we are going to check today is called Blob. It allows you to create such animated figures, and the positive side of this block is that you can add here both gradients and images. So for example, we can add a gradient, or you can choose an image. This is all for today. In our next video, we will talk about stage and batch effects that allow to animate many elements at once with a sequence animation. See you in the next video.